the incomes of high-income people.
Black, Asian and minority ethnic people are underrepresented in business and especially in management roles. According to a report out today, 12.5% of the UK population are black, Asian or ethnic minorities, but just 6% of those people are from those backgrounds in top management positions. So when it comes to talent, are businesses missing out? Well, joining us now is Pavita Cooper, Chair of the Chartered Management Institute's Race Network. Welcome to BBC Business News. So let's start off by this figure of 6% in top management positions. That's not good enough, is it?
No, absolutely not. And one of our key findings from this research is when we went out to try and get underneath what those numbers actually look like, what we found is that only 1 in 5 companies were actually tracking the data and reporting it. Whereas when we look at the gender issue, we know that at least 4 out of 5 companies are tracking data and reporting on it. So we know that without having the data at hand, it's going to be very difficult for organisations to make progress.
OK, so how do people go, or how do companies go about recruiting people from those backgrounds? Is it a sort of case of positive discrimination?
No, not at all. I think what we've seen is some really positive moves on the part of some organisations, particularly professional services, where actually, particularly at graduate level, they've gone out and they've started doing things like blind screening, so they take the names off CVs. And although that's increased the numbers of people entering the organisation, our research shows the issue is actually the lack of progress once people are in the organisation. And some of the things that we identified were a reluctance on the part of some managers to even talk about the issue of race, for fear of upsetting their colleagues or not having the right language to use. And yet BAME managers told us that they often don't want to talk about it because they're in such a minority that they're the only person around who looks like them, and therefore they try and fit in order to progress. And so more needs to be done in organisations to actually help accelerate the rate at which young leaders of colour are moving through companies.
If employees do feel that this is a problem in their workplace, what do they do about it?
Well, I think the first thing is there is this sort of shroud of secrecy around it. I mean, I certainly find I'll often go to a function or event and I am the only person of colour. I think you have to talk about it. Unless we're prepared to come forward and actually share our stories and our personal experiences, things won't improve. One of the case studies in our research talked about one organisation when they invited colleagues to talk about themselves and their background, and a young Muslim woman actually shared a story about her faith and what she was about, and it triggered many people to come forward to say, I'd like to do this. So I think leaders of colour have a responsibility to sort of come forward and talk about their own experiences, but organisations need to do a lot more around transparency to access to sponsorship, mentoring, development programmes, and actually recognising that many people from these communities need more help than they're getting now.
Are there challenges perhaps in these communities as well, that challenges that would could be overcome by sort of more initiatives taken to make sure that young black, Asian, ethnic minorities have that ambition to progress leaders?
Yes, and I think it's a two-pronged approach here. These issues are always systemic. So on one hand, we need to do far more outreach into schools and universities. Lots of organisations are already doing that and trying to increase the rate at which young leaders or young people of colour are coming into organisations they wouldn't traditionally consider a natural career route for them. We also know that for certain groups, for example, young black men have poorer academic outcomes, and therefore we need to be more broad-minded and creative about how do we allow those individuals to access roles in big organisations. And at the same time, for the individuals from these communities, they also need to think about how do they put themselves forward and put their hand up, because one of the things we see in companies often is that the process is one of you putting your hand up and being selected rather than waiting for someone to tap you on the shoulder.
Okay.
So having confidence and putting yourself forward is really important.
OK, Pavita, thanks very much for joining us. Pavita Cooper there from the Chartered Management Institute's Race Network. Quick look at markets before we go. The FTSE 100 in positive territory today, helped by the consumer goods sector. Reckitt Benckiser, a big company in consumer goods, has made an acquisition, and that's helped the FTSE in the green.